The movie begins in Los Angeles, where we are introduced to Ted Crawford, an aeronautical engineer of Irish origin with a good financial standing. Ted is an extremely shrewd person, as he only dedicates 1 hour a day to his work. The rest of the time he manages his own business and delegates minor tasks related to the aircraft doors, especially one that is known to be damaged. Thanks to that help, the mechanics show him their gratitude. However, behind that facade of success and tranquility, Ted has a defiant and unhappy wife who is not going through a good personal moment. He had an affair with a police lieutenant named Rob. During that clandestine relationship, Jennifer hid her true identity and address, which clearly indicates that she was hiding information. Without Jennifer having any knowledge, Ted already seemed to have known about her inappropriate behavior. Obviously, Ted went immediately to the hotel where Jennifer and Rob were, recognizing them instantly. And he entered the home to observe more closely how they were living that love affair. Later, Ted's wife arrived at her house, and upon opening the door, Ted seemed to unsettle her. He tried to kiss her, but she refused, although Ted, to eliminate the bad odor, had brushed with intensity almost 99 times. Jennifer told him that she would soon prepare dinner, but suddenly Ted asked her a question about her infidelity, which took Jennifer totally by surprise. How was it possible that her husband had such precise details of her affair with Rob? Cowed by guilt, Jennifer apologized, saying that she felt like a capricious woman, but Ted suddenly pulled out a gun and shot her in the head. Meanwhile, some gardeners who heard the shots approached quickly to understand what had happened. However, Ted fired several more times, generating a great scare among those present and causing everyone to scatter. Afterward, Ted picked up the casings that were left on the ground, cleaned himself up, and burned the clothes he was wearing to destroy the evidence. Faced with the reports from the garden workers, the police burst into Ted's house. As fate would have it, at that moment, Lieutenant Rob was acting as a negotiator. He called Ted immediately and managed to enter the home. Calmly, Ted confessed to the officer that he had shot his wife. To his surprise, the lieutenant was shocked to discover that the woman in question was Jennifer, his girlfriend. Rob quickly checked Jennifer's pulse, as she was still breathing, while Ted moved forward and aimed a pistol at her. But the officer managed to snatch the weapon from him. The lieutenant gave him several punches to the face, but other police officers intervened to stop him. Finally, Ted was arrested and taken into police custody. The doctors confirmed that Jennifer was still alive. And Willy, an assistant district attorney, shows up. His partner tells him Ted tried to commit murder. With witnesses there and Ted already confessing, Willy figures it will be an easy case and decides to take charge at once. During the preliminary hearing, Ted did not want to hire a lawyer and preferred to defend himself. Both the judge and Willy were surprised by the gravity and seriousness of the accusation, so they recommended that he hire a defense attorney. However, Ted insisted that he wanted to be tried as soon as possible and asked that his case continue without delays. When they mentioned to him that the prosecution could change prosecutors, he responded that he preferred that Willy remain in charge because he trusted him and did not want changes in the process. That night, the lieutenant talked with Willy to warn him that something did not add up with Ted, but Willy was confident that, with the evidence and statements, he would win the trial without any problem. He also met with Nikki Gardner, who introduced herself as his boss. She started to flirt with him, but the conversation was interrupted by a call from Willy's partner, who informed him that the pistol found in Ted's house was never actually used and that Ted never left the home that same night, so he had not had the opportunity to change the weapon. The following day, Willy returned to the crime scene to delve deeper into the investigation. He detected that Ted did not have gunpowder on his hands or on his body, although 4 bullets were indeed missing from the cartridge. With no fingerprints on the casings, he deduced that Ted still had them. Back in his office, he received a file with all the documents of the case. To his surprise, each page had the word "no" written in red. He went to visit Ted and was left stupefied to see him reading that file as if it were a book. Ted confessed to him that he had hired a private detective who compiled all of his personal information. Later, he tempted him to be his defense attorney, hinting at the possibility of switching sides before things became even more complicated. But Willy rejected that proposal. Before leaving, Ted told him a story from his childhood. His father, an egg farmer, asked him to check a large quantity of eggs to separate them, placing them in a tray of 300 units. He found defects and vulnerabilities in all of them, and he reminded him that if one looks with enough attention, one can detect flaws in anything. Willy wondered if he had managed to find any flaw in that comparison, and Ted assured him that he had. During the trial, the tension was palpable. Willy, as prosecutor, called several witnesses to testify, trying to build his case piece by piece. But while that was happening, Ted remained in complete silence. He did not ask questions. He did not interrupt. He only limited himself to drawing in his notebook, as if he were disconnected from the trial, or perhaps concentrated on something bigger. When the lieutenant was called to the stand, things changed completely. Under oath, the officer stated that Ted had confessed the murder of his wife to him, a direct and devastating accusation. But instead of denying the charges, Ted counterattacked in an unexpected way. He claimed that the lieutenant was having an affair with Jennifer, his wife, and that he had evidence to prove it. The reaction was immediate. The lieutenant, out of control, rose from his seat and attacked Ted violently before the astonished gaze of the jury, the judge, and everyone present. The trial was suspended instantly. That night, after the scandal in the trial, Willy, Ted, and the judge met in private. Ted had in his possession more than just words, evidence. A private detective had documented encounters between his wife Jennifer and Lieutenant Rob at a motel. For Ted, that relationship was enough to question the objectivity of the investigation and perhaps also the motive behind the crime. The judge, conscious of the possible manipulation, dismissed the lieutenant's statement and gave Willy a few days to present new evidence. If he failed to do so, Ted would be released. Outside the court, Willy's boss did not hold back. He asserted that the case was lost due to lack of preparation. Willy tried to justify himself, said that everything had been a trap, but his boss did not want to hear it. Later he went to see Nikki, who confessed that she interceded to prevent him from being fired. He thanked her and they spent the night together. But upon returning home, Willy received a package with eggshells, a clear, direct, and threatening message. Willy then visited the police station and confronted his friend, the detective. He reproached him for not having found the murder weapon. With the pressure on, the detective agreed to search Ted's house one last time. He contacted the lieutenant, now sunken in the loss of his family, and together they planned one last search. But once again, nothing. The weapon still did not appear. The trial was rescheduled for Monday. Desperate to find something, Willy visited the motel where Jennifer and Rob met. The manager promised to give him the security recordings, but upon returning to his office, he received an unexpected call. It was Ted he kept mocking, unshakable, sure of his freedom. Willy went to his house, but the police officers still found nothing. He then went to the hospital with the hope that Jennifer would wake up and could speak, but the doctors were clear. Even if she woke up, it was unlikely that she would remember who shot her. Later he went to have dinner at Nikki's house. Tension returned when her brother found out that Willy had resumed the case. Enraged, he argued with Nikki and she left the place. Her father, a retired judge, was left alone with Willy and encouraged him not to give up. He reminded him that it is not always about winning, but about fighting for what is right. That night, the lieutenant contacted Willy with an unthinkable proposal: falsify evidence. Willy refused, but the pressure grew. The next day, he obtained the motel recordings. In them, Ted appeared, but with a hat that hid his face. It was not enough. The detective insisted the weapon had to be in the house, but there were no clues. Willy, frustrated, shouted, "I am building a case from nothing against an idiot." That night, defeated, Willy accepted the lieutenant's plan. During the hearing, they would pretend to have found new evidence. His secretary would appear as a surprise witness. The strategy was risky, but it seemed his only option. When the moment arrived, Ted asked for acquittal. The judge asked Willy if he had anything else, but at that instant, something broke. Willy knew that Ted was too intelligent to fall into that trap. He presented nothing, he could not do it, and the trial was closed. Ted was acquitted, set free. But when everything seemed finished, a gunshot shook the building.
This is the travel day. What was that?
Outside on the stairs lay the lieutenant's body. He had taken his own life. Willy ran, paralyzed by horror. Meanwhile, Ted took his weapon and left for home, and Willy remained at the hospital, hoping that Jennifer would wake up, wishing that at least she could tell the truth. The next morning, Ted appeared at the hospital. Upon seeing him arrive, Willy felt a shiver and feared the worst, that Ted was there to finish what he had started, to kill Jennifer. Desperate, Willy looked for Nikki. He asked her for help, although she no longer had any obligation to the case. Nikki refused. She told him that Ted should not be there, but she could not do anything about it. Willy insisted. He begged her to do something, that Jennifer was in danger, but Nikki did not listen to him. Later, his boss gave him devastating news. Ted had filed a restraining order. Legally, Willy could no longer approach the hospital. Ted, at least before the law, was no longer a criminal. There was nothing left to do officially. Cornered, Willy turned to Nikki's father, a retired judge. He explained the situation to him and managed the unthinkable. He obtained a warrant to arrest Ted. He ran to the hospital with the hope of arriving in time, but it was too late. Jennifer had already died. It was Ted, cold, imperturbable. With a court order in his hand, he asked Willy to leave. The scene was chilling. The next day, Willy was trying to find some peace by cleaning the garage, but the guilt would not let him be. Then he received a call from his boss asking him to return to work. Willy refused. He felt responsible, as if he himself had let a murderer go free. But his boss gave him a key. It was an attempted murder, not homicide. Those words made him react. He went back to review legal documents, connected the pieces, and met with the detective. During a casual conversation, something unexpected happened. By placing their phones together, the detective took Willy's mobile by mistake. They were identical. That was when everything clicked. Remembering a mocking call from Ted, Willy noticed a revealing detail. There was something more, something hidden in that arrogance. Ted invited him to his house, telling him to enter without permission, and Willy did so. There, in the place where everything began, he found the truth. Ted had bought a pistol identical to the lieutenant's and had made an exchange of weapons at a motel. Later, when the lieutenant found Jennifer wounded, without knowing it, he took the wrong pistol to the trial. Everything had been an anticipated move, measured with precision. Ted, confident, even admitted what happened with a smile. He fired only once, but he bragged about having killed 2 rabbits with 1 bullet. He was so sure of his impunity that he said it out loud. He claimed that he could not be tried twice for the same crime, but Willy had a final twist. He explained to him that Jennifer did not die on the spot. She was abandoned, left to die slowly. That meant they could extract the bullet from her skull and compare it with the one from the real weapon, and thus charge Ted with first-degree murder, a different crime. At that moment, the police entered to arrest him. The game was over, or so it seemed. The story became even more complex. Ted had used a single piece of evidence during the entire trial, a bullet. Now that same bullet would be his conviction. But Ted was not defeated. Surrounded by a team of elite lawyers, he was already preparing for another trial, this time more ruthless, more calculating. And meanwhile, Willy was left alone, knowing that the battle had not yet ended. So ends this great movie. If you want to see dramatic videos like this one that make your hair stand on end, click on this video.